Hello soul buddies, welcome back to the channel. This video was highly requested by so many of you and I decided to just take out time to do this. But just a quick introduction, if you're just joining us here for the very first time, you're highly welcome. My name is Joy and I am the tutor and the convener for this channel whereby I'm linked. In today's tutorial, we will be learning how to draft a basic bodice block for a plus size. You know, there are different ways to kill a rat, but in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how I do mine, and at the end of the tutorial I'll show you a picture of a plus size person that I have used this pattern to sew for, and it came out very good on her body. So without wasting much of our time, let's just get right into the business for today. So first off, you have your pattern paper. These are the things you'll be needing. Yeah, I'm using my phone for calculator because you will be doing a whole lot of calculations. So I'm going to use my phone for calculator. Yeah, this is a multi-purpose ruler. It has the hip cuff part. It has the French cuff part for, you know, your necklines and your armhole. And also, yeah, it has the straight part for your rule. And it's calibrated in centimeters. But for this tutorial, we are going to be working with inches. Yeah, I have my marker. And of course, you also need your tape rule for, you know, taking your measurements and all. Now, for this particular basic bodice block, or for this tutorial, these are the list of measurements we'll be needing for this tutorial. Yeah, this is the half length. The half length for this person, that's from shoulder round the bust to the waist, is 24. Then her shoulder to her bust point is 14.5. You can already tell this person is very gigantic. And then the bust to bust is 9.5. That's nipple to nipple. For some people that call it nipple to nipple, that's what I mean. Bust to bust, 9.5. The under bust length, that's from the shoulder to the around the bust on to under the bust length is 20 inches. Then the hip is 58. Although we might not be using it for this basic bodice block, but just to give you context, that's why I wrote out the hip. Then here we have the waist, which is 43, her bust is 51, shoulder is 18, her back half length is 17. You know, when you're drafting a basic bodice block, especially the contoured feet, you need your back half length. The back half length and the front half length is not the same. You can already tell the back half length is 17 and her half length for the front is 24. So you can tell that the difference is 7 inches. That's 24 minus 17, which is very wide. And this is because of the fullness of her bust. The bust is well rounded and full. So by the time the tape goes round the bust, then under the bust down to the half length, it's already taking a longer length or a longer route. Unlike the back that is almost flat and then it just runs to the half length. So the back half length is usually shorter than the front half length. But for people that are not so busty, or maybe for very tiny or petite people, the difference can even be 1.5 inches. We have differences of 2 inches. Most people, their difference between the front and the back half length is 2 inches. For some people, it can be 3. But you can imagine a difference of 7 inches. Then it already gives you an idea of how, you know, plus size this person is. Then here we have the round under bust. That is round the under bust. You know, for every vertical measurement there is a corresponding horizontal measurement. So this is the under bust length, which is a vertical measurement, and then this round under bust is the corresponding horizontal measurement. The half length is the vertical measurement and the waist is the corresponding horizontal measurement. The shoulder to bust is a vertical measurement, and the bust, that's round the bust, is the corresponding horizontal measurement. So always know that for every vertical measurement there is a corresponding horizontal measurement. I just feel I should explain that. Now let's get to the drafting of our basic bodice block. So now, as you can see, I've gone ahead to mark out my bust point, that's shoulder to bust point, which is a vertical measurement. Yeah, the shoulder to bust point is 14.5, and as you can see, this is what this line represents. I've gone ahead to label it the bust line. The under bust is 20, which is going to be our under bust line, and then the waist is 24. That's the half length is 24. I've gone ahead to label it as the waistline. So those are like the main horizontal vertical measurements I'm working on. Remember I said for every vertical measurement there is a corresponding horizontal measurement. So now the next measurement we are going to be working on is our chest line. Now this measurement is a derived measurement, meaning that it's not actual. We didn't measure it directly on our client's body or our customer's body. It's actually a derived measurement, and to derive this is how we derive the chest line. The chest line is going to also serve as our armhole line. That's where the armhole will sit. So to get the chest line, what you want to do, and this is applicable to all body sizes, to get the chest line, you want to do your bust divided by 6 plus 1. So to get the chest line, we are doing bust divided by 6 plus 1. So you use 1. Now 1 is not a standard. In my own case, I use 1 as an average. You can actually use 1.5 or you can use 0.5. Now if I'm making a dress that will have nets as the sleeve, I use a 0.5 because I don't want the armhole to be too open and exposing the person's armpit. So I use plus 0.5 if my sleeve is going to be a net, then plus 1 if it's going to be maybe like another fabric. Then I actually don't use 1.5. I don't use 1.5, but if you use 1.5, it doesn't mean that your pattern has spoiled or that it's not going to be good. But from experience, from repeated sewing, I've noticed that for most body size, 1.5 is always too open at the armhole part, except there's going to be a sleeve there. So even if you use 1.5, it's still going to cover up. But if you're doing sleeveless and you're using 1.5, it's going to be too open. So now in this case, her chest line would be 51 divided by 6, which is 8.5 plus 1. So that's going to be the chest line. That's 51 divided by 6 plus 1 is giving me a 9.5. Now that's supposed to be the chest line. But now because we are going to be having a shoulder slope, you're also going to put that into consideration. So you're going to add the 1 inch for the shoulder slope, which is 9.5 plus 1 inch, and it's going to give us a 10.5. So we are going to be using 10.5 for our chest line. This is because we are going to be going down by 1 for shoulder slope. So that extra 1 that will be going down by is the reason why I added the 1 inch. So that at the end of the day, after going down 1 inch for your shoulder slope, you end up having 9.5. I hope that is clear. So for our chest line, I'm going to go ahead from the tip of the paper, which this part is going to be the tip of the paper now is serving as our shoulder line, which is our start point. So I'm going to measure 10.5 for the chest line. So yeah, this is 10.5, and to get a straight line, if you're not using the set square or maybe the square part of your multi-purpose ruler, you have to mark in 2 points so that you'll be able to get a straight line. So I've marked that in 2 points, and then going in with my ruler, I'm going to be linking the 2 points together to give me a straight line. We are doing that so that our line will not be slanty. So this is now my chest line. This is now the chest line. Alright, so now let's now start working on the inner bodice. So remember our shoulder is 18. Going to the shoulder line now. Remember that's beginning part. This beginning part is our shoulder line, but I'm not going to be labeling it. So going to the shoulder now. The shoulder is 18, and because we're working on half of our paper, like half of the bodice, this is not like a complete bodice. Remember, this center front is going to be on fold. That's actually depending on your style. If your style has a zip in front, then it's not going to be on fold. Or if it has a joining in front, it's not going to be on fold. But if it doesn't have any joining in front, then it's definitely going to be on fold. So since it's going to be on fold, that means you're working on half of our piece, like so. So now our shoulder is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9, right? 18 divided by 2 is 9. 18 divided by 2 is 9, and that's what we've gone ahead to do. So there is 9 inches. So remember, our chest line is 10.5, which we've gone ahead to do. So yeah, I'm going to mark this 9 inch in 2 places because I'll be going in with my ruler now. To do a broken line. So this is 9 inches from here to here is also 9. So I just placed it. Remember I said mark in 2 lines so that you get a straight line. I'm just going to go ahead and do a broken line like so. I'm using broken lines because it's a temporary line. I'm not going to be needing it eventually. So remember I said our shoulder slope is 1 inch. That 1 inch is just applicable to the back alone. I actually use 1.5 for my front shoulder slope. So I'm going to be going down from the shoulder line, 1.5 for the front. I used 1 inch because that is exactly, we need 1 inch to get our chest line. So I'm using the shoulder slope for the back to calculate that chest line. The 1.5 for the front, everything entered inside. So the reason why we are using 1.5 is so that we don't need any gaping at that shoulder part. You know, the shoulder is slanty. That's from the neck to the shoulder tip is slanty. It's not a straight line. That's why we go down for our shoulder slope. And to even make it more fitted, the front has to come down 1.5 while the back has to come down 1 inch. If you make your front 1 inch and the back 1 inch, nothing spoils. It's still going to be okay. But then if you want to have that professional touch, you need to take all these little differences into consideration. All right, now the next thing we are going to be working on, remember this is our shoulder slope. We've come down 1.5. the next thing we are going to be working on is our neck depth and our neck width. For a plus size, my neck width, I use at least 3 inches for the neck width. That's the opening. So for the neck width, like I said, I use 3 inches minimum. That's, I don't exceed, I don't come lesser than, oh no. For the neck width, I use 3 inches minimum. I don't come lesser than 3 inches so that it doesn't choke the person too much. But if the person is not plus size, I can actually use 2.5. So yeah, I'm using 3 inches for the width. This is the limit I go. And then for the depth, to find the depth of the neck, what you have to do is the bust divided by 12. So to get the depth of this neck, bust divided by 4 will give us 4.25. That's 51 divided by 12 is going to give us 4.25. So that's the least I'm going to be using for the neck. If you use 4 or 3.5 or 3.7, it's going to be too choky. So I'm using 4.25 for the neck. I've gone ahead to mark that out. Now with that out of the way, we are going to be linking this neck width point here. That's the point where the shoulder meets the neck. We link it to the shoulder slope like so. And then going in with our French curve, we are going to be linking this one like so to get our neck. So that's now out of the way. After we've done that, the next thing we want to do is to measure from this shoulder slope to the chest line, where the line meets the chest line, to know what the value is. Here the value is 9 inch. So we are going to be finding the midpoint of 9 inch. Midpoint of 9 inch is 4.5, which is going to be like the midpoint of our armhole. That point is very important. So we'll be needing it is like a landmark. So that 4.5, the next thing you want to do is to come in by ½ inch. So from that point you are coming in ½ inch like so, because you don't want that you don't want that part when you're drafting your armhole, you don't want that part to have too much fabric. So you just want to come in by 0.5 like so, and then you link that point, you link it to the shoulder tip. Now after that, the next thing you want to do is with your French curve, going with your French curve, you now link it for your French curve to sit on this line. Now there is something I see most beginners do. When you are doing this, remember you came in by 0.5. You don't want to place your French curve like this. You don't want to place it like this. No, if you do that, what you're doing is, you see the difference here is now looking too big, like it now came in. The limit where you want it to come in by is 0.5. I said 1.5. 0.5, that's the limit. So you don't want to do anything that will be beyond 0.5. okay. Some people use 0.75. 0.75 is still very okay, but I think anything beyond that, like 1 or 1.5, is going to be eating into your chest area, and the flesh at that armpit part is going to be poking out, which is not a good sight, you know, especially for a plus size. So what you're trying to achieve here is to make sure that everything is well covered. That's the flesh at the armhole part is well covered. Just, you know, imagine the scenario where you're sewing with a see-through net that is very tight, and then you came in by, let me say, 1.5. It will be pressing into that armhole area, and it's not a good size. So you want to make it well covered so that it sits perfectly on that armhole part. So with that out of the way, let me draw my armhole, the remaining armhole. So yeah, I've linked it, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw this like so. All right, so that's out of the way. Now let's get to the inner bodice part. I really want you to pay attention to this very part. Please pay close attention to this part. Now, you know that as human beings, we are not flat at the front and flat at the back. No. For the bust area, the front is fuller than the back. Even at the waist area, the front is fuller than the back, because you know we have our stomach and the fupa are bulging out. The waist is fuller in front than the back. The bust is fuller in front than the back. And then when you come to the hip area, of course you can already guess, we are fuller at the back than the front. So if you have that in mind, with that taken into consideration, you're not supposed to share your front and the back bust equal, or the front and the back hip equal, if you really want to get a perfect fit. Okay, this is something I learned over the years. Like, I had to teach myself this thing I'm telling you now. It's something I learned over the years, and then when I practicalized it, it gave me better fit. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that this bust, when we are dividing it, we are going to be giving the front more and give the back less. When we come to the waist, we are going to be giving the front more and give the back less. And then when we go to the hip, that's if we were to draft it down to the hip, although we are going to be stopping at the waist area. But when we go to the hip, I've done a series of tutorials on, like, if you want to really understand, especially the hip part, please refer back to my pencil skirt tutorial, how to draft a pencil skirt with butt contour. I did a detailed explanation on that hip part. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to be focusing on the bust and the waist. Alright? So the bust, our bust here is 51 inches. So when you do 51 divided by 2, let's say we are sharing it for the back and the front, divided by 2, 51 divided by 2 will give you 25.5. So now I want to, ideally the front is supposed to have 25.5. Sorry, I live in a very busy area, so if you're hearing the background noise, just pardon me, okay? But I hope you're hearing my voice. If not, you can always tell me where I need to adjust, so that this tutorial is very, very beneficial to us all. So 25, when you divide 51 by 2, it gives you 25. 25, what it means is that 25 is supposed to be for the front and 25 for the back. But like I said, the front is supposed to have more. So here we are going to be doing 25 plus 2 for the front, and 25.5 plus 2 for the front, and then 25.5 minus 2 for the back. So it's not like we are stealing 2 inches from here and giving it to the front. That's just the logic behind it. So what it means is that the front is now going to have 27.5, and the back is now going to have 23.5. If you go ahead and press your calculator and do 27.5 plus 23.5, it's still going to give you this 51.5. So now coming to 27.5, which is our front bust, you want to go ahead and do 27.5 divided by, you want to go ahead and do 27.5 divided by by 2. Alright, because we're working on half scale, that's half of it, divided by 2 is going to give us 13.75. Now 13.75, we are going to go ahead and add 0.5 for ease. Okay, it's going to give us 14.25. Always add your ease, 0.5, especially in the first area. So here we are adding 0.5 for ease, and it gave me a 14.25. So here, this is my 14.25, and I'm going ahead to mark it on that bust line. Now coming to the waistline, after you've worked on the bust, the next part you need to work on is the waistline. Like I said, you don't divide it equally, but this waistline, the difference is not much. So even if you divide it equally, nothing spoils. It's still going to give you something similar to what it would have been. So here, our waist is 43. Our waist is 43. 43 divided by 2 is going to give us 43 divided by 2 is going to give us 21.5. Alright, so what it means is that 21.5 for the front, 21.5 for the back. But because we want to give the front more, right? We want to give the front more, we are going to do 21.5 plus 1. We are going to be using 1, or you can even use 0.5. But because this person is a plus size, and I know how full she is in front, like she has a little bit of tummy, she's not like entirely flat, I'm going to be giving her plus 1, which is going to be 22.5 for the front, and then the back is going to be 21.5 minus 1, which is going to be 20.5. So you know, if you do 22.5 and plus 20.5, it's still going to end up giving you 43. So here for the front, what we'll now do is 22.5 divided by, that's this 22.5 now for the front, divided by 2 is going to give us 11.25, right? 11.25. So you measure from here, you measure your 11.25. Now for the darts, we are going to be using 2 inches for our darts. So I'm going to, after 11.25, you want to add extra 2 inches because we are going to be needing it for the darts. So when I've done that, next thing I'm going to do is to be linking these points to this point and then just taking it up to the armhole. So you want to link this point to this point with your straight rule. You link this point to this point with the straight rule like so, and just take it up, you know, follow it up to this armhole part. You take it up and drop it like so. Now after doing that, the next thing we are going to be working on is our under the bust point. Remember the bust point to bust point, that's the nipple points to nipple point is, the nipple point to nipple point is 9.5. So now 9.5 divided by 2, remember we are working on half of it, so 9.5 divided by 2 is going to give us 4.75. 4.75. So I'm going to be marking this 4.75 here and also mark it on the waist part. 4.75. Marking it on the 2 lines so that I'll get a straight line because I'm going to be linking it like so. 4.75. So after I've done that, remember we took 2 inches for our dart. So now this 2 inches extra, I'm going to be taking it out at this dart area. And because we don't want the distance between the 2 darts to be too close together at the waist part, we are going to be giving this center front part, that's the one at the center front, we are going to be giving it 0.5 inch. That's, we are trying to share these 2 inches now between the lines. 2 inches divided by 2 is supposed to be 1, 1. But we're not going to be sharing it like that because we don't want our darts lines to be too close together. So we are going to be giving this one 0.5, right? And then we are going to be giving this side 1.5. 1.5. So yeah, 0.5, 1.5. If you measure from here to here, it's still going to give you your 2 inches. So now coming to the under bust line. Coming to the under bust line now. That's round under bust. We want to tackle a round under bust. Our round under bust is 45. For the round under bust, we are going to be doing 45 divided by 4. We are just going to divide it by 4, more like we are sharing front and back equal. So we're just dividing it by 4. When you divide it, it's giving you an 11.25. So now coming to this other bust line, we want to measure our 11.25. So yeah, I'm measuring 11.25. After marking my 11.25, I now want to know the remnants, what is remaining here. So yeah, what's remaining is approximately, or let's say 2.5. 2.5 is the remnant of this area here. So what it means is that we are going, just like we did for this waist part, we are going to carry this 2.5 and bring it to this line here and share it. So 2.5, what I'll do here is I'm going to give this other part 0.75. Let me start from here. 0.75, and then I'm going to be giving this other part 1.75. Right? Ready? Yes, I'm going to be giving it 1.75. This is 1.5, 1.75. So the difference between the thing now is now that this one is just 2.5 inches bigger than this. This one is just 0.5 inches wider than this. So that extra 0.5, I just gave you 2.5 here, 2.5 here. That's why the difference between here and here is 2.5 inches. Now after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to link these 2 points like so. Link this part from the waist to the under bust, and then link this other one like so. So as you can see, I've linked the both of them. I've linked it. Now the next thing we are going to be working on is the bust part, which is like the elephant in the room. Now what you just want to do, what I do basically is I just extend this line up a bit because I'll be needing it for my guide. Now for the bust, what you want to do is you go up 0.75, you go up 0.75 and come down 0.75. Remember, if you've watched that basic bodice block video, we used to go up 0.5 and come down 0.5. But because this person is a plus size and we don't want that bust point to be too pointy, that's why we are going up 0.75 and coming down 0.75. Now when you've done that, the next thing you want to do is to link that point to the under bust like so. You link it with broken lines, just broken lines. Remember, broken lines are temporary lines, like we will end up not using it. We just need them for guidance. So just link it with broken lines. Now after linking it with broken lines, the next thing you want to do is to measure it out and know what it is, then divide it into 3 parts. Alright? Divide it. So here it's giving me 5 inches. If you divide 5 into 3 parts, 5 divided by 3 is 1.6. So let's just approximate it to 1.5. So we just need is 1.5. You mark it 1.5. We're going to mark it on the 2 lines. So from here to here, 1.5. We just need all these guidelines to be able to draw our curve so that it will not be too pointy. Now, after you've done that, the next thing you're going to do is you just from this point now, you link this with a straight line. It's more like you're completing that broken line. You link it like so. You also link this like so. But then you now go in with your curve. You want with a curve, you want to link this to this point and do the same thing for this. So going in with your curve, you place it like so to link it to this point. Alright, and then you place this other one like so and link it to this point. Okay, so now we've linked it. Let me trim this so that it's well blended. Alright, so when we've done that, the next thing we are now going to be working on is this armhole part. Remember this point, which is our 4.5 point, that's half of our armhole. We are also going to be working with that point. So when you've done this, the next thing you want to do is link. Remember this other 0.75 points here. You want to link it up, just with a straight line. You link it to your 4.5 line like so. That 4.5, you want to link it with a straight line like this. And then because after sewing, there's a tendency for it to have an extra to close up that gaping at this armhole part, we are also going to be putting a small dart there, just a very small dart. We don't want that gaping. If you sew without putting that, without removing the dart, you find out that there might be an extra there. There will be an extra, so you want that armhole part to sit well, to just lay flat on that armhole part. So what I usually do is I come in 1.5. That's from here. You can even use a 1.25 or 1.5, but let's just use 1.25. So yeah, I'm coming 1.25. So between 1.25 and 1.5, you come down from that point. You come down, and then going in with your curve, you can now place your curve like so. If it were not to be, if not that it was a plus size, this 1.5, when you place your curve, it can actually come down to this point. But because it's a plus size, if you place your curve, it's just going to be meeting at that line. All right, it's going to be meeting at the line, and you just leave it like so. So you've removed this thing. Now you're seeing is a dart. It's more like a dart that we are. Remember I said this tutorial is an armhole princess dart, so that's what we are working on, and which is the dart, like so. That's what we've put. Or if it's not a plus size, this dart can come as low as this, because the shoulder to bust point in people that are not small size is not as wide as 14.5. In fact, the 14.5 is under bust line for most people. But because this person is a plus size, the distance from this armhole part and the bust area is quite far. So the armhole, this gaping now, the armhole that has the distance is much. So if you now remove so much from here up to this point, you're going to be taking too much from the dress, and that's why most times the bust area is holding the person at the bust, and it's like the person's hands are together, like holding the person can't even raise her hand and stuff like that. So you have to put that into consideration as well. So when you've done that, this is what the curve looks like. This is what the curve, you can go ahead and through this point like so, just blend it so that it's curvy, well rounded, and then it's not too pointy. Now the next thing we are going to be working on, when you do this, you have to extend this, because if this thing is very curvy, so most times when you're sewing, you notice that it's actually pulling, especially if you don't have a good control of your sewing machine. In my own case, I can decide to leave it like this without extending it, and I can manipulate it in such a way that all my notches will meet. That's this part will meet, this part will meet, this part will meet. But if you're a beginner, you don't really have a good control of the sewing machine, I advise you extend this point. So you can extend it by an extra 1.5, right? So you just extend it by an extra 1.5 like so, and then redraw your armhole. But for professionals, you can actually know how to maneuver and sew that curve without it shortening in any way. All right, so here you redraw your armhole. Just do this final step. It's better for you to have an extra that you can always trim off than for you not to have any extra and then there's a shortening there. It's not a good thing at all. If there's a shortening, what the implication is that you end up trimming up this part just to blend in with that shortening, which is not good, which is not a good thing for your pattern. So you just have to put this extension. Then when you're sewing, you make sure you match this bust point here. Make sure it matches. That point is very important. You match it. You match your under bust point. Make sure they match as well. Then you can now start sewing from the down part and making sure everything aligns. When you pin here, you pin here. Make sure you've gotten these 2 points. Those are like the most important notch points. Then you can start sewing from down, and then you sew up. All right. Now, after you've done this, now the next thing we are going to be working on is that difference between the front and the back. Remember the difference between the front and the back. The front half length is 24, while the back half length is 17. So now we are going to be doing 24 minus 17. 24 minus 17 is going to give us 7. So what it means is that the difference between the front and the back length is 7. The implication is if you don't do this thing I'm about to do now, Have you ever seen a cloth where after sewing the back half length is dropping, like it's not sitting on your waist, it's actually dropping down? This is the reason. You did the back half length and the front half length the same. It's not supposed to be the same because the front has the bust while the back doesn't have a bust. And because your tape is going to go around your bust in front, the distance the tape is going to take is longer than the back. Alright? Our difference now is 7 inches. Now, if we don't remove these 7 inches from the front, it means that the front and the back will not align. The front is going to be 7 inches more than the back, and we don't want that to happen. And then if we now remove the 7 inches from the front, it's going to be too much. You see that's, I think this is where the problem is for me. In fact, this is where the problem was for me when I was, still learning how to sew for plus size. Sewing for a plus size is very tricky. So you need to know all these things for you to know how to tackle it. So instead of removing 7 inches for bust that's from here to measure 7 inches, we're not going to be doing that. Instead, we are going to be removing only 5 inches. And then we'll be keeping 2 inches for when we'll start drafting the back. So inside these 7 inches, we are going to be taking 5 inches. So now, if you want to take 5 inches, what you just do is you come to this bust line and measure your bust dart. So for this bust here, we are going to be taking 5 inches for the bust dart. This is 5 inches. So I've marked the 5 inches and I'm going to be linking it up like so to the bust point. So what it means is that this is a dart. This is going to be our bust dart. This dart is going. Now this bust dart now, if you know your dart manipulation very well, you can actually transfer this dart to shoulder dart. If you know your dart manipulation, all you just need to do is slash and spread. Alright? You mark your new line here, you slash it, you slash here, and then you close it, and automatically you've created a shoulder dart. That if you want it to be a shoulder dart. Alright, if you want it to be a shoulder dart, just do slash and spread. Okay, all these things you're seeing now are dart darts, or even this is a waist dart. But because this is a plus size and the cup is so big, that's the bust, the fullness of the bust is so big, that's why it looks like the darts are wider. So that at the end of the day, when you sew all these pieces together, it's going to cup very well to accommodate the breast, and jack the breast up. And another thing I forgot to mention in the beginning of this tutorial is that when you're measuring for a plus size, please make sure that person is wearing a good bra. You need the support of a good bra to take your measurement. If the breast is drooping, the implication is that at the end of the day, when you finish sewing, your bustier is going to be drooping as well. It's not going to look like you did not snatch the under bust well. Like, it's not going to support the breast very well because it needs support. Do you get? So the person needs to wear a well firm and rounded bra. That's a good bra that can help you take your measurements. A good bra can actually make a huge difference, because if the bust is drooping, you might end up having a bust point of say 20. But when the person wears a good bra, that 20 inches bust point can actually come up to 14.5. Alright, so you see the difference is even much. If you've ever sewn for a plus size, you relate to what I'm telling you. So let the person wear a very good bra. So remember here we did 5 inches, and this is the end of the front part. Now let's get to the back part of our pattern. The back part of our pattern is going to just be supporting every other thing we did for this front part. So yeah, I'm just going to rule a line, or let's just start from this demarcation here and start working on our back pattern. So this is the demarcation. I might actually divide this video into two. If I'm editing and it looks like it's too long, I might eventually divide it into two. That's front and back pattern. But if it's not too long, then I can just leave it as one video. Personally, I prefer having everything in one video, but this is YouTube. If it's too long, I just try and cut it, divide it, so that I'll be able to cool down and explain myself very well. Some of you actually complain that my videos are fast. So if I'm able to do this without doing a voiceover, then I think I've tried by achieving it. But then if the video is too long, then I'll just have to divide it.